Honestly, this is how I feel when people ask me to reread this series.
I'd rather shoot myself in the brain.
No! Daddy!
Oh, no, my brain's okay, son. It was just a pathetic cry for help.
You know who this is by now, so let's get on with it. This is issue 3 of the He-Man ThunderCats crossover by DC, and much like a literal pile of decaying matter, it only gets worse as it continues to exist. You'll know exactly why this issue, and one of the writers for this series, by the name of Rob David, are very, very bad. Let's begin. We open with Skeletor, filled with the power of Grayskull and Mumra's immortality, tossing all the ThunderCats away, all while a new narrator monologue. The ThunderCats land, pick themselves up, and Lion-O charges back into battle, declaring how they need to return He-Man's sword to him and stop Skeletor's plans. All while the other ThunderCats try to tell him to hold back. Skeletor knocks Lion-O back while informing him that he not only knows who Lion-O is, but who the ThunderCats are as a whole. The other ThunderCats pick Lion-O back up and tell him to stay back, stating that it's their job to protect him. Lion-O not taking too well to that statement as they rush in. The other ThunderCats take their turns at Skeletor via small explosives, Panthro's fists, and Tigra literally setting him on fire. The latter of which has Snarf asking if they should put him out. Skeletor tells them not to bother as he dispels the flames. He then goes on the offensive and attacks the ThunderCats in a myriad of ways, all while boasting about his alleged abilities. He brings the sword to bear, preparing to kill Panthro. Suddenly, the ThunderCat symbol shines into his face, temporarily blinding him. Lion-O has joined the fray again and blasts Skeletor back before leaping in to deliver a cut to the sorcerer's chest. Skeletor responds to that by kicking Lion-O in the crotch, then exchanging more blows with Lion-O, eventually taking out one of Lion-O's eyes. Skeletor grabs the Sword of Omens, wondering if the something he sees in Lion-O is him or the sword. Lion-O states that he's much more than any sword because he has family, as we see the other ThunderCats have rejoined the battle, while Skeletor comments, "I hate reunions." Panthro knocks Skeletor to the ground while Lion-O reclaims his sword. Lion-O uses it to blast Skeletor, and Tigra uses that moment to wrap his bolo whip around Skeletor's neck and sling him around like a ragdoll, followed up by the Wily twins tossing some smoke pellets at him. Skeletor tries to collect himself, only to discover that Panthro has decided to just land the entire Thunder Tank on him. Skeletor still has the power of Grayskull, so he simply picks up the tank. However, he starts hearing a familiar voice. Mumra has apparently survived ingestion. Skeletor asks how, and we get this exchange. "So long as evil exists, Mumra Mumra, I'm in the middle of a battle here! Mumra cares not. You must pay for..." "Oh, Mumra does care, for I fight the ThunderCats." "Proceed." Skeletor then hurls the tank at the scattering ThunderCats, but Lion-O has overheard their entire conversation. Bringing his sword down on Skeletor's wrist to force him to drop the Sword of Power, Lion-O reveals to Skeletor that Mumra should have told him to avoid mirrors. Inside of Skeletor, Mumra panics and forces Skeletor to start fleeing. They are then consumed by missile fire, as we see Snarf has brought the Thunderstrike in to bomb Skeletor directly. Lion-O takes the Power Sword, stating that they must take it to its rightful owner. We then cut to Skeletor, who apparently teleported to a different location as the bombs dropped. He berates Mumra for making him flee, while Mumra takes control of Skeletor's body, forcing him to attack himself. For a moment, Mumra takes full control and transforms to his ever-living self. Skeletor fights for control and curses Mumra, for in Mumra gaining control, it broke Skeletor's connection to the power of Grayskull. They fight for control between the two of them, only determining that they're too evenly matched to outdo each other. Skeletor then poses that they team up instead of fighting. He promises Mumra if they take the power of Grayskull from Castle Grayskull directly, not only would they be able to separate themselves, but that the power of Grayskull would give Mumra the power to take the Eye of Thundera for himself. Mumra agrees, and asks if Skeletor still has the golden discs of knowledge. Skeletor produces them, and their scheming begins. We cut to the ThunderCats arriving at the Eternian Palace, where a funeral for Prince Adam is underway. After the funeral, Lion-O presents Adam's sword to King Randor as the king grieves the death of his son, and the secret Adam kept from him. Their heart-to-heart continues, but the earth begins to shake again. Outside, Skeletor and Mumra gleefully exposit about what they did, freeing and then enslaving the ancient spirits of evil to become kaiju-sized monsters to wreak havoc on the land. It's then that we discover who this new narrator is. The sorceress in her Zoar form, and the issue ends. The writing for this issue was very ham-fisted. It uses the most contrived manner to get things done. The writer clearly knows very little about the ThunderCats' individual abilities or personalities. More on that later. But the biggest issue has to do with Rob David himself. Before I go into that though, I need to take you back to 1992. And one specific incident in comics at the time that made literal worldwide news.
Nothing is sacred. The Man of Steel is proven as vulnerable as mere mortals who have looked up to him for more than half a century.
The Superman Doomsday issue reached most newsstands yesterday.
In the current issue, Superman's death is being mourned worldwide. Even President-elect Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary are shown delivering a eulogy.
Man of Steel has proven to be as vulnerable as the mere mortals who've looked up to him for more than half a century. Superman died Wednesday. East Greg Agnew reports on a world without the first superhero.
Now, why would I bring that up out of nowhere? Well, here's why. Rob David is not an original or good writer, and this dates back to his Eternity War days at least. In an issue of that series, He-Man is given a possible future vision, where he is the king of Eternia, having never relinquished the power of Grayskull and becoming Adam again. In this vision, he walks the streets in celebration, all while a peasant woman says that his touch could heal her child. This is literally taken from the New Testament account of the woman with the blood disorder touching the hem of Jesus' robe to be healed. It wasn't clever, it wasn't making any sort of artistic statement. It was awkward, clunky, and written like a 15-year-old edgelord would write it. And this book? No different. And here's where the comparison to the death of Superman comes in. You see the massive funeral surrounded by his fellow heroes, all of them wearing an armband with He-Man's Iron Cross on it? Sound familiar? It should, as that's exactly how it was played for the death of Superman. What ties this in directly is the fact that He-Man's Iron Cross symbol is also emblazoned on the casket, just like Superman's is. The problem is King Randor's family, the family that Adam is part of, already has its own coat of arms, seen here, which is what should have been used here, especially considering Rob keeps trying to cleverly nod to other things in the He-Man mythos, but he just sucks at it. And the enslaving of the ancient spirits of evil thing, that was already done during the Wildstorm ThunderCats The Return run. It was a bad idea then, and it's a bad idea now. One more thing I should touch on though. The insults and the vulgarity. I said in the first video that Skeletor is the master of sass. And this issue just further proves that Rob has no idea how to pull that off. The insults between the two are shockingly childish and stupid. There's no cleverness to them. As far as vulgarity goes, it's shockingly out of place. Say what you will about the popularity of the mini-comics, but most people's introduction to He-Man was with the cartoon, and that goes for ThunderCats too. Trying to play this story as being more mature by adding cussing only shows that Rob is just as much of a hack as I think he is. The same issues as the last two persist with the whole white outline and coloring, so there's that, but I also didn't speak about something on the last issue, but I will here since it's more prevalent. Stop using vectors for the ThunderCats symbol. Seriously, just draw the thing. I am by no means a professional artist, and I always draw it myself. It's even in the thumbnail for this video. This has been an issue since the latter Wildstorm run for ThunderCats. I've seen fan artists do this as well. Stop it. Be better than that. And while we're on art, I feel I need to point out that the artist making every character left-handed, the failure of proper body mechanics in the sword fight, and the fact that the claw shield is the same color as Lion-O's skin are all bigger issues that need to be addressed as well. But there are other issues here. like Snarf's proportions being terribly off, and I'm guessing this is the reference picture Freddie Williams used for Panthro, considering the build is mimicked almost verbatim for the rest of this run. It's just bad. There was no quality control here. Alright, let's see if I can do this quickly. The ThunderCat shouldn't be treating Lion-O like a child. The Sword of Omens has shown in multiple instances that it can reverse transformations regardless of the magic that caused it.
ThunderCats!
Not so fast, ThunderCats!
ThunderCats!
Skeletor shouldn't have been able to touch the Sword of Omens without becoming Electro.
Here, Jaga, take it. If we are false and you are true, use the Sword of Omens to destroy us.
Skeletor, even with all that power, should still feel pain from being literally lit on fire. Even before the second season, Lion-O was a skilled enough combatant to beat the universe's greatest fighter.
Too frightened to fight without your friends, coward?
I'm no coward, Demolisher. I called my friends to save you, not to save me.
To save me?
Force me to fight on, and I will surely destroy you.
So Skeletor shouldn't even be an issue, enhanced or not, and if this happened after the second season, Lion-O has mastery over every martial form in Thunderian history, so that would make it even more of a moot point. Skeletor promising Mumra that the power of Grayskull will grant him power over the Eye of Thundera, since the Eye of Thundera has been shown to be objectively more powerful via feats than Grayskull, is a ridiculous thing they overlooked. Lion-O has always been Lord of the ThunderCats, especially since he wasn't aware of the anointment trials until they began, and as such wasn't even aware that there was a further need to prove it before then.
I don't get it, Snarf. I'm already Lord of the ThunderCats.
The hereditary Lord Lion-O. Now you have to prove yourself worthy of the title.
Why didn't anyone tell me?
'Cause as Lord of the ThunderCats, you'll be expected to deal with anything you'll ever come up against. Especially the unexpected.
And since the ancient spirits of evil are Mumra's power source, it makes no narrative or functional sense to be able to enslave them. And as far as Mumra's mirror image goes, he lost that weakness in the second season.
Take a look at yourself, Mumra. The reflection you cannot face. The reflection of your own evil.
Think again, ThunderCat. When the ancients revived me, they made me more powerful than ever before. My reflection means nothing to me. And now...
Stop trying to ham-fistedly shove two seasons together like they fit. Everyone got that? Good. Have Lion-O clash with Skeletor, reverse his transformation, and take the Power Sword back easily. That would give Skeletor the grudge and motivation to want to destroy the ThunderCats directly, leading to a better alliance with Mumra. Have Mumra transform into his most powerful world-busting form and attack Eternia instead of this garbage job. This is going to get a lot harder to fix as we go forward. It just gets that bad. We're at the halfway mark, guys. 3 issues left. Join me for issue 4 later this week. Let me know what you think of this run so far in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Doesn't matter. Let me know. We'll talk about it. I'm sorry for my lack of uploads the past 2 weeks. I had personal stuff for the first weekend, and the second I was at TFCon in Chicago. It was a lot of fun, and I probably bought way too much stuff. Anyways, now that that's out of the way for now, this weekend I'll be at OniCon in Galveston. I'll be hosting panels on the history of ThunderCats, how American and Japanese animation compare, and a Gunpla contest. Feel free to say hi if you come by. I'd like to thank my patrons Avis and MegaUmi. If you want to support my content, feel free to do so via Patreon in the link in the description. Higher tier patrons get free monthly commissions from me as well. You can see the two for the past 2 months displayed here. The contest for the 1000th sub is still on, of course, so you know what you'll be getting if you win. We have some fan art for this week's video as well. Thanks to those who submitted them. If you'd like your art featured, feel free to upload them to Twitter or Tumblr with the hashtag LioFeatureMyArt. Or just DM me on Twitter directly with your art. This is Lio Convoy signing out for now. Take care.